Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon, and I'm a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I am a rabid Florida Gator fan.
Love it. We are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. So welcome to episode 49. Chris and I are going to break down the top 5 returning offensive starters for the Gators, for the Noles, and the other Florida teams. Man, what a journey, and it's kind of good to see who's returning to the team, right?
Yeah, I really like talking about the players and who's coming back now that the dust has settled with the whole transfer portal thing and recruiting, and now we get an idea of actually who is on the team, who's going to suit up, and we can really start talking about them and get down to X's and O's.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. There's been a lot of stories in the offseason. We'll plan to touch on those as the season draws closer to get the most up-to-date notifications and all of that. But right now, today we're focusing on the top 5 return offensive starters. Did you have as much trouble with your list as I did?
I mean, the first top 3 for each side of the ball was easy, but then the last 4 or 5, and even after that was the real hard part.
Okay.
For me.
Understandable. I as usual, I had trouble ranking. I usually have 5 or 6, and just going 5 to 1 was difficult. But I'm curious. I have a couple of ideas of where you put yours, so I'm very, very anxious to see where you have people such as Felipe Franks. So anyway, let's get started.
Yeah.
People want to know.
All right.
Usual format. I'll let you start. What you do your number 5 returning starter, I'll go my number 5, or we'll alternate back to number 1. Then we'll recap and give an honorable mention to our fans. So without further ado, Chris, the Gators, we have some important returning starters. Go ahead and start with your number 5.
All right, my number 5 is a player out of what I think is the probably deepest unit, and that is the wide receiver unit, and that is Freddie Swain. He was, especially the first half of the year, was a playmaker, one of the guys that we could always look to not so much just possession, but to actually go deep or break a small pass or even return punts for touchdowns. He kind of got injured second half of the year, and it kind of trailed off there. But he is a guy that we can look to make plays because there's so many would you say maybe bigger threats on offense. I think he's a guy that's going to sneak under people's radar in prepping for the Gators. I think he's going to have a good year. I think he's going to be really good matching up against someone's 3 or 4th corner. Okay. And I think I like that matchup for most teams, and I like what he's going to do. He was real good, like I said, in the punting return game as well. We have other guys that can return punts, but having him that is versatile and can do both, I think is going to be real helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I figured he'd make the list, or at least honorable mention. And what a talent! He's the more explosive guy for the Gators.
Yeah, right.
Just a guy you don't know when he's going to bust out.
I mean, he had almost 19-yard average.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really good. But like I said, if he just avoids getting injured, I think he's going to have a really good season for the Gators.
Yeah, I feel like our list is that caveat. Let's throw the asterisk there right now. This is barring injury, assuming they.
True.
We're going to turn the injuries off on this simulated version of this 19th season. Good point. Yeah. All right, Swain. Okay, good choice. So my number 5 for Florida State is also a wide receiver, and I'm going to stick with this guy. He's been my go-to, and he's not always performed well, but his name is Keith Gavin, and he's just a possession receiver. He's like a poor man's Anquan Bolden. He's consistent in very, very big games. Against Miami, has 7 catches. Against Alabama in 2017, 10 catches. All of last season, 26 catches for 415 yards and a couple of touchdowns to top it off. But he always just seemed to show up. The problem is he just kind of fades off in random games or as the season wears on. Maybe the energy's not there, the focus, I'm not sure. But for me, you still want that guy. He's a senior this year. This is the year you got to make it count. You got to show the other guys how it works. And unlike the Gators, we don't have a large wide receiving core, so he's the kind of the guy who needs to step up and show the other guys the ropes.
Yeah. Maybe you're talking about him last year around this time, too, as the guy that could help the Noles out.
Yeah, he made my list in the top 5 last season, and I'm going to put him in again from the Tallahassee area, from McCullough, so definitely representing. And like I said, against the bigger opponents, I would expect him to show up a little bit more, so let's hope that continues.
And FSU has a lot of big opponents, so there you go.
Yep, indeed.
All right, my number 4, another wide receiver, and probably you could argue that he's the best out of all of them, and that is Van Jefferson. He's our leading returner in receptions with 35, receiving yards 503, and touchdowns 6. And he is one of our biggest receivers. I think he's one of the more NFL-ready receivers, too, just his physical frame. And he's a guy that can do possession and go deep for us. And I think he's going to draw a lot of attention from the opposing team's number 1 or number 2 corners, which is going to free up people like Swain. But he's really talented. He's a transfer last year from Ole Miss. Jumped right in, started every game. It's real helpful for us. I think he's going to continue that for the Gators.
Yeah, I was curious of where on the list that he would fall, but you're right. The transition from another school didn't seem to faze him, and he came right in and contributed immediately. So it's also rare. I guess I really put this together that he can be a possession guy and go deep. That's a hard skill set.
Yeah, usually guys that are tall like him, physical, big frames, are more possession. But he has some moves, and he can go deep just as well as go across the middle.
Wow. Double threat guy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Love it. Awesome. Okay, well, let's break away from the receivers for a second here. My number 4 for the Florida State offensive returners with Mr. James Blackman at quarterback.
Yeah.
Most people are like, so low. Well, we have 6 quarterbacks. That tells you a lot right there about the guys that are returning. However, he has the most experience, obviously. Redshirt sophomore. He's the top of the quarterback sitcom at FSU. Let's go ahead and start the documentary now. But, he's been consistent. He's got a lot. He did save his redshirt last season because Francois was there. He's no longer gone. Francois is a whole other story. But, a guy who returns and honestly has the potential to be an anchor in this offense. We're going to go through some transition. In 2017, when Francois goes down, he comes in and plays the entire season and does a pretty good job for being a guy right off the bench and not having been in the weight room very much. But, I look at the quarterback core. We got some transfers. You got some preferred walk-ons. You got just a whole lot of potential, but not a whole lot of experience, and he's the one that has the experience, and that's what matters to me the most. It's going to be a tough transition because you have a new coordinator, you have a new offensive line coach. Those all factor into what it is, and let's not skip over the fact that he at one point wanted to leave, and then 3 days later changed his mind. That all factors into the mental capacity of a quarterback, which is just important as the physical skills. But I still number 4 because we need that kind of experience coming back. Whether or not he had reservations about staying, that's understandable. He's still here, and he's still my guy.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that thought he would be higher on the list, especially with that kind of offense. But, I really like him. I think he's really talented. I think he should have gave them the better chance to win last year. Of course, hindsight 2020 on that.
Right.
But he's a competitor, and he still needs to get in the weight room and eat some extra meals. But he's real good and very crucial to that offense.
Yeah, high protein diet, number 1.
Yeah.
But number 2, I've never been really high on him. I mean, last year I was very vocal that he should have won the job over Francois, and I was kind of upset, but just okay with the fact that Francois came in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear Francois had the skills, but maybe just made less mistakes. I don't know. So I'm happy now. He's clearly the guy going in, and just that stability makes me feel a lot more comfortable about the transition.
Right. All right, so my number 3 is another receiver, but you can put him anywhere on the field, and that is Kadarius Toney.
Okay.
This guy is a Swiss Army knife on offense. I think the challenge for the coaching staff is how do you get him the ball, and you can many ways from the Wildcat. I think you can line him up in the backfield, run some drag routes, screens, just get him the ball. Find ways, and Mullen's real good about being creative about getting him the ball because he's explosive. He is one of those guys that is real hard to tackle. I wish that he wouldn't. He likes contact, which is part of you is like that's great, but long term, I'm like just run out of bounds. Just run out of bounds. But I really love his little elusiveness. He's real elusive. He's looking to juke the mess out of someone. If he can't, he'll lower his helmet. So he's real hard to tackle, and we need to find ways to get him the ball as much as possible.
I like that. Does he do special teams by chance, or do you guys divert that to somebody else?
Yeah, he's returned some kicks, which I think is good for him too.
Okay.
I don't know if we need him returning kicks. I would rather save him for just strictly offense. But he's dangerous. He's thrown touchdown passes. He's ran them. He's caught them.
Wow.
So he's like Percy Harvin light. He's no Harvin. I'm not saying he's Harvin, but he's kind of like that type of player.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy you want 20 to 22 touches a game, no matter where it is. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, speaking of one guy who's kind of versatile, I'm going to go with this is my segment where I go with the weird reference. Chris,
okay.
I always like to do this.
Yes.
What can Denzel Washington teach us about my number 3 pick?
King Kong has nothing on you?
No. No, okay. So we all love the movie Remember the Titans.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So Petey, Donald Faison from Scrubs, when he was younger.
Oh, yeah.
He's the running back, right? They're running drills. Petey fumbles the ball. Coach goes over to him and he says, "What are you doing, son?" Grabs his little face mask. He says, "My blockers." He says, "Your blockers did not fumble the ball. I want you to run 1 mile." How many feet are in a mile? 5,280, sir. I want you to run 1 mile and not fumble the ball. All right. My number 3 pick is Cam Akers, our running back at Florida State.
Yep.
He's a junior.
I know this is why you're saying it. Okay.
1,700 career rushing yards. He had over 1,000 in his freshman year. Last year dropped off harshly, just over 700. 7 fumbles in his career. 4 of them lost. Whenever I see that, I mean, that's not a huge number. So you're talking about 1 every 3 to 4 games. That's enough to make you worry. And there are 3 people on your team who should have the best hands: your center, your quarterback, and your star running back.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of concern when it comes to that. Now, some of those, okay, maybe it was your blockers, to go against Remember the Titans. I don't know. But in the end, it is you who has control of the ball. And we're trusting you with it. So, he really should be my number 1, but he's not because of that and because of his slide off last year. I'm not buying the hype. He's not my number 1 returning starter this year. He just isn't.
Okay.
He needs to prove to me that he can do better. And, he was a quarterback in high school, Clinton, Mississippi. He threw 1 pass in 2017 that went for 47 yards. Good for you. You're not quite Kadarius Toney, but you have the skill. And, that's something you could throw in the bag of trick plays. He's not going to throw touchdowns or anything crazy. Early in the season, before he realized the offensive line was garbage, Taggart was probably like, hey, I could use this, and he could probably throw a touchdown or 2 in the red zone. Had to quickly abandon that philosophy, but watch for it to come back. He can throw. It is there. I wouldn't, bet any kind of crazy thing. He's going to throw 4 touchdowns as a running back. No, nothing like that.
No.
But he does have that ability, so just be cautious of that. Anyone listening? We've put the warning out last year. I'm doing it again this year. It could happen. So,
all right.
Dan Mullen, watch out.
I see. It's always frustrating when you see a player that has so much potential, and you get glimpses of what he can be, but he doesn't live up to it just quite as much. Yeah, it's frustrating. But I see it. I see what he can be. And it's just, like you said, being consistent and not fumbling.
And I'm hoping he proved me wrong. You know, he has the potential to go 1,300 to 1,500 yards this season. Right. And I'm hoping that's the case. But right now, I can't put him higher than 3.
Okay. All right. My number 2 is a guy who switched from 22 to the number 2, and that is running back LaMichael Pirine. He split time with Scarlett last year. Scarlett left for the draft, and now it is Pirine's to lose, to gain, whatever you want to say. He's the starter. He's the guy at running back. He's got a couple guys behind him that are with Pierce and Davis that he's definitely going to split some time with, but he's the main guy, and rightfully so, because he, especially at the end of the year, showed that he was explosive. I've always known him as a tough physical runner, but as the season progressed, you see him being able to take a screen and work in the open field, and then at the very end of the season, you could see him break in those long touchdown against Florida State and Michigan in the bowl game. You can see now he's got it all now. He's got a little bit of everything, and he's becoming a complete back. So I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to see if he can continue that, or with him being the main guy, how that's going to affect him, and how they're going to mix up with a guy like Tony that can run, the quarterbacks that can run, and those two young guys coming in behind him. But I like him as our starter, and a lot of people could say that he is the MVP or the most important player on offense. But he's my number 2 because I'll explain why number 1 is number 1. Okay. But I'm really liking him in the backfield.
All right. I'm actually in the camp. I would have put him number 1, actually. So I understand probably some of the reservation, which is how will he be handling the full-time position? Can he be a 20-touch a game kind of guy? Will he be able to handle running up the gut? Which I don't know that Mullen will do that too much, but if he has to, and he will a couple times a game, can he handle the wear and tear? How much will he go off to the bench? Will he catch passes? Yeah. All good questions, and I don't know. I think he's versatile enough. He might have been the number 1, but I guess I kind of get it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I get to my number 1, it's Frank's, by the way. Okay. I'll explain a little more, but yeah. But you could easily put him at number 2, and I mean, sure. At number 1, I can't really say you're crazy for that.
Yeah. Very good point. There wasn't much mystery there. We all pretty much did.
Yeah, right.
So real quickly, my number 2 for Florida State, return offensive starter, that would be DJ Matthews. Okay. I love this guy's versatility. So 457 return yards. His average catch total has kind of gone up. 42 catches last year, that's a lot. And 10 catches at NC State. So he's the kind of guy, when the game is big, he's big. And I appreciate that. He has he had the return punt touchdown against Miami, which put us up really big. And when the stage is big, he can show up. So I really appreciate that. It's just a matter of getting him the ball, too. I think he might have even been a quarterback in high school, too. What is up with this? But he was the guy that threw the trick play, quote-unquote, play that didn't count against Miami. He caught that lateral pass that didn't count as a lateral pass that threw the touchdown. So he has that ability as well. How much will we need that with Bryle's offense? I don't know. But I'm just saying that to explain his versatility. He's kind of an athlete, and he was probably recruited as an ATH, and he just kind of ended up at wide receiver / punt returner. And I love his explosiveness, and I'm really hoping and feeling that this year he can really break out with that.
Okay. Yeah, he's one of those guys that kind of – Tony does this too, where he wants to break it for a touchdown every play.
Yep.
He could just he's trying his hardest to make it a touchdown. And I don't know I know Tony gets upset when he doesn't score a touchdown. But you can kind of see that look in his eyes, like I want to score. I have to do whatever I'm going to have to do. Juke 15 people if needed. I need to score right now. He seems like a guy that does that.
Yeah. Well, and I hope that they catch on and they throw other things like screens, maybe some draws, maybe a handoff, a jet sweep, something to give him a chance to do that, because a couple times a season it will work.
Right. Get him in open space, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, number 1. Let's hear drum roll, drama, ooh, suspense. My number 1, most key important returning offensive player for the Gators is whoever is playing quarterback, and that happens to be Felipe Franks. As long as Mullen is the coach, it's probably always going to be quarterback as number 1. He's going to touch the ball majority of the time, unless it's a direct handoff to Tony. But he's going to touch the ball majority of the time, and as he goes, the offense goes. And Felipe Franks, surprisingly, he went well last year. Because the years prior to that, and maybe it was the other coaches, he didn't do so hot with Florida. But last year, Mullen was able to wrangle him in and play to his strengths and really lead our team. And he did a great job at that. And the numbers that stick out to me, he had 23 touchdowns, which is good, but 6 interceptions. You want to keep that number low, and I think that's low enough.
Sure.
6 interceptions, and you saw at the end of this season, he kind of got more emotional, and he ran the ball more and a little more physical. I mean, he's a big dude. Why not run it with him? I think he's a little bit hesitant earlier on, but as the season progressed, he got more confident. In that South Carolina game, when the Florida fans, and I can't say they're wrong for this, started booing, he got angry. He played angry, and he was great. So I hope that he still has that fire under him going into the season, because we're going to need him, because it starts with him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was kind of thinking you would have him in the 2 to 3 range, as I kind of alluded to earlier, but yes, the emotion and the last 6 games of the season, after an injury to Trask, and these guys are people number 1, so an injury is never good news, but number 2, he took that opportunity and he rolled with it. Yeah. And you alluded to this a lot of times last season. The type of games that the Gators might have lost, they won because of him.
Yeah. Yep. And he was definitely the factor in especially that South Carolina game, like I said, where, this is where the quarterback's going to crumble. But he didn't. And because he didn't crumble, we were a different team than the teams in the past. Right. So I feel more confident. It's weird. It's weird because I'm conditioned to not say I'm confident in our quarterback. Because after Tebow, that's all we known is just a quarterback that's and then
very very descriptive there, but you're absolutely right.
No. Describe your quarterback. I'm actually starting to feel confident in his ability to lead our team.
Yeah.
So
as you
it's
should.
a weird feeling, but I like it.
Yeah, I even heard it was a Tennessee Volunteer player. They said, who's the toughest guy you have in the SEC to sack? He's like, Felipe Franks. He's like, this guy's huge. I just can't. Yeah. I can't get him.
Yeah.
My number 1 returning offensive starters for Florida State would be any competent offensive lineman.
Oh.
Okay, so mostly a joke, but please, can we
for real
figure that out? Besides that, the star of the team, the face of the program, Tamarian Terry.
Yeah, I'm about to say, it better be.
He's a redshirt sophomore. He was tied for receiving yards last year with Naquan Murray, despite catching way less passes because his yards per catch were ridiculous. He caught 8 touchdowns. I'm going to predict at least 10 this season. And the main reason why is because the wide receiver core is just not quite there. We have some talent. I'll mention most of those in the honorable mention category, but he's clearly the guy. And
Right.
he's the one that lit up. He was all over the highlights. He was the guy when you needed a play, you went to him. If you can feed him the ball, big play situations, he may only catch 4 or 5 a game, but they're all going to matter. So I'm very excited about him. You know, my only fear with Tamari Terry, this is his 3rd season, because we actually redshirted him as a freshman. Thank you, Jimbo, for that. This may be his last year with us. If he has a good enough year, he's gone. And that's the only drawback to Terry, is this may be the last season we get out of him. So right. I'm very excited with a new offense, with the spread that we're running, with Taggart getting all the staff in that we probably need to succeed. He's going to be the number 1 go-to, and man, I'm thrilled to see what he does.
Yeah, I think he fits perfectly with Blackman because he likes to throw the ball deep and is good at it.
Yeah.
And Terry likes to run deep and catch deep. And he's good at it too.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something that every team has to plan for, is the deep ball to him.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah.
So very excited. All right. So let's do a quick recap, Chris. I'll let you run your 5-1. I'll do the same, and then we'll do honorable mentions.
All right. Number 5, Freddie Swain, wide receiver. Number 4, Van Jefferson, wide receiver. Number 3, Kadarius Toney, wide receiver. And then number 2, Michael P. Ryan. And number 1, whoever is quarterback, and that is currently Felipe Franks.
Excellent. 5 returning offensive starters for Florida State. Number 5, Keith Gavin, wide receiver. He's a senior. Number 4, James Blackman, redshirt sophomore quarterback. Number 3, Cam Akers, running back. He is a junior now. Number 2, DJ Matthews, wide receiver. He's a junior, also kick returner. Number 1, B, is offensive linemen that are competent, and 1A would be Tamari Terry, a wide receiver, who's a redshirt sophomore.
Okay. Great. All right, so honorable mentions. Brett Hagee, offensive lineman. I believe he's a senior this year. He's probably our most experienced guy on the line. So we're going to need him to step up. Grimes, another wide receiver, who he, at the end of the year, especially that Florida State game, really came on late. He's another transfer guy.
Grimes, I knew that name for some reason. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. No problem. And obviously, I'm very curious to see Malik Davis coming back from injury, how he does in the backfield. Okay. And then Jones, the backup quarterback, Emory Jones. Now that there is no is there going to redshirt him, questions anymore. Like, he's part of the team. He's number 2. I want to see what packages they have for him, how much he actually gets to throw the ball when he comes in.
Okay.
I'm interested to see what he does. And then Kyle Pitts, tight end. Dude is like 6'6". He's a potential matchup nightmare. Coming off, tight end position. So those are the guys that I want to mention that just missed the list.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty strong. Just like yours, to mirror kind of the same mentality, it's guys that were close and may actually serve as backups and do decent cleanup when these guys can't perform or if they go down with injury for some reason. So Keyshawn Helton was the one. He's a sophomore. He's a wide receiver. He's also a returner, so kickoffs mostly, but I mean sometimes they may do punts, I guess. He did score a touchdown against Clemson, so he's last year he was kind of getting his feet wet. Piece of trivia here: he's Derek Brooks' nephew.
Okay.
So good for him. Trey McKitty, our junior tight end. I was really actually kind of biased in not liking Trey last year because every time we had an offensive penalty, it was his fault. He didn't line up right. He was always like, "Can you just stop line up illegally, please?" and not being eligible downfield and all this other garbage. So if he can get over that, then his 26 catches and 2 touchdowns from last year will mean a lot.
Maybe he just needs glasses.
Yeah.
Just check his vision because he doesn't know where the line is.
That could be it. I can't figure it out.
I see the line every time I watch the game at house. Like this. He doesn't see that yellow line go across. I see it.
They don't see that, Chris. They don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. They pay a lot of money for us to see it, but they never see it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, if we could figure that out, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Khalil LeBourne. He's our backup running back. He's coming off injury. He only got to play one game last year against Virginia Tech. He went down in the second game with injury, was out the whole season. So he's pretty much it behind Cam Akers, who I haven't been shy about, not very confident in. So there is my honorable mentions.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
Good list.
It's good. Very good list, because we're awesome.
Yes. Okay.
So
Hold back. Like it.
And no modesty here. Yeah. Let's take a few minutes to whip around the state, Chris. Go ahead and share with us just not maybe a top 5 necessarily, but some other key returners for all the teams out in South Florida.
Yeah. So we'll just start with Miami, and obviously the big name Tate Martell, the transfer from Ohio State, who he's able to play this year because of the new transfer rules. Very interested to see how he hops in there. He's going to be very crucial to them. And Diaz, his new team, new offensive staff, new head coach, new quarterback, just all new on that position, on that side of the ball. So interested to see how he does. And then the running back, DJ Dallas, was real well for them last year. He's going to be a very crucial part for them. And then Jeff Thomas, he's an explosive receiver. He's a guy that you have to keep an eye on because he can go deep and will go deep if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. We kind of took some liberties for people who are like, he's not technically Martell is not a returner. Yes, we know. We realize that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Miami doesn't have a whole lot when it comes to that, so we kind of took a liberty there. So
yeah, I think he's important enough,
sure,
returning or not, that he needs to be on that list. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. FAU. So National Florida Atlantic. What you got?
So FAU, just go alphabetical order. Bryant, their tight end, the senior tight end, is. It looks like he's a guy that can potential player in the NFL soon. And then Robinson, their quarterback, is going to be real good for them. Now Francois, he's there, but he has to sit out a year, right? Is that?
Francois is an interesting story. As far as I know, he can actually go in as a preferred walk-on because he's technically considered a graduate. However, there's been a lot of rumors about whether or not he'll go.
Okay.
He visited Alabama State. He could be a preferred walk-on. I actually think if everything clears and he stays, he might actually be the starter there.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, you played at Florida State. I think you walk on to FAU and
sure,
you should be the starter. You should just walk onto campus and automatically be the best player.
Yeah, I mean, as of this recording, mid-July, we just don't know where he's at. And I mean, there's the Alabama State visit, and he's back and forth, and we don't know if Kiffin has solidified his status there, so it's kind of up in the air. But I'm of the opinion he should be the starter. I don't see the reason why not.
Right. Yeah. And so we're just going to throw him on the list, and then the wide receiver Willie Wright is also going to be a key player for them. And then we go to the Panthers, FIU.
Oh yeah.
And then for them, James Morgan, who's a senior returning, 26 touchdowns last year, really got them going. So I think obviously he's going to be a key player for them. And then the wide receiver also returned some kicks, Maurice Alexander, who's also a senior as well. I think those two guys you're going to have to look out for.
Good pick. I'm all on the Morgan. I'm all about him.
Yeah,
Great stuff. He had to sit out last with the shoulder injury, I think, but that's won't matter next year. So
yeah,
great choice. Exactly. All right. So the Central Florida area for the South Florida Bulls. Really 3 guys on offense that you really want to keep an eye out for. Blake Barnett, the quarterback. He's had his past. He's transferred a couple of times. And I think he's actually a pretty good fit for the Bulls. He couldn't quite get the system last year, in my opinion, and then late in the year he kind of got hurt. That was after they kind of started downsliding, so it didn't really matter. Yeah. But, it was really obvious as the team went. So after he was gone, there was There was no clicking. They went 2 and 3 quarterbacks sometimes. They couldn't get their rhythm at all. So his return is huge. I'm really big on St. Felix, wide receiver. He was an impact player, and his injury got kind of shortened the year, but man, he's going to be a very big part of that offense. So good for him. And then, of course, Cronkite, the transfer as a Gator previously. Yeah. He doesn't catch a lot of passes. That's the only thing that kind of surprised me. He caught like 7 all year. So I was really shocked that he's not a dual guy. No, he's just I'm going to tuck it, run between the tackles. Maybe try and bust it outside. But healthy, system running right, this guy goes over 1,000 yards easy. So he's probably got the biggest ceiling out of all those 3, but all 3 of them are going to have an impact for sure.
Yeah, Cronkite's a good call.
Yep.
Good call.
For the UCF Knights, trying to come back and finish a 3rd undefeated regular season. You got some key players here. Obviously, their offense is what they hitch their wagon to. This is how they continue their success. Gabe Davis, wide receiver, 53 catches last year, 7 TDs. Coming back, that's great. Otis Anderson, you talk about a guy that just needs the ball a lot. 15 punt returns last season, 7 touchdowns as a wide receiver. Fantastic. Great athlete. Killins, one of the fastest guys in college football.
Yeah.
8 touchdowns. He had over 1,000 combined yards rushing and receiving. Plus, he had 14 kickoff returns just to top it off. You could probably argue he's a number 1, and I wouldn't say no. Greg McCrae, 11 touchdowns. He had over 1,200 yards, and his rushing just continues to increase. I like to see how they use him. Returners, I did throw Darryl Mack on this list. I know he's got the high ankle injury right now. I know he's going to probably not be the starter this season. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. He's probably going to sit out at least a month. But he was the guy that came in and was the guy they were planning to run their offense through after Mackenzie Milton went down with injury. So he's still an important leader. He's said a couple of things on Twitter. I'm like, interesting. Not the most positive things with the fans who kind of, like to throw some shade every once in a while. But, that is what it is.
Yeah.
I have no doubt, though, they're going to rotate him and Wimbush, especially when Brandon Wimbush starts to throw and they find out he just throws a lot of interceptions and is not a great passer. They're going to have to go with Mack. Plus, they have a really good option of Quadri Jones at 3rd string, so they're definitely not hurting for QBs like Florida State.
Okay. They do have a lot of options. You're right.
Indeed.
When I read that he got injured, I was like, that's a second quarter. Oh, wait. No, never mind. You have another good record. A couple good quarterbacks still there, so it'll be all right.
Yep.
Yeah, killing some, man. Dude is fast. You're right about that.
Yep. And I think that it's almost like it's a burden of talent with UCF right now because there's not a guy that's going to go, and it's almost like the UF backfield where you're just like, okay, we're going to split, and so every guy's going to get their share. The difference is the American has terrible defenses, so even if you split amongst 3 guys, they each get 1,000 to 1,200 yards, and in the SEC, you're only get 700 to 800.
Yeah, true. It's a something that you're not complaining about. It's a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
Depth.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Man, that's fun, and the season's getting closer and closer. Any last thoughts on the returning starters for offense for our schools?
We'll get into the defense, and that's a lot more question marks, but not as many question marks on the offensive side of the ball for the Gators, which is odd to say.
Okay.
Really odd to say for the last how many years? I don't know. This is probably the more I think all the receivers are returning. I guess the offensive line has some question marks. I will say that.
Okay.
But overall, it's not as many as I'm used to. So I'm looking forward to if the offensive line gels, I think that we're going to produce a lot of numbers on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. A little more stability. Very good. I'll just end on this thought. Yeah, I made a joke about competent linemen. that does dictate how your offense goes. And as we saw last year with Florida State, you can argue it was injuries. You can argue it was what Jimbo left behind when he left and left it with Taggart. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it matters who you put on the field and who produces results. Mm-hmm. And if it's a guy who transfers community college, that's fine. If it's a grad transfer, I don't care. And we all know it's a work in progress, but for Florida State, that's the biggest thing. Everything goes through them. Once you figure that out, 7-8 wins is pretty standard.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Chris, remind the fans, because we put a list here. I know with me, Cam Akers number 3. I'm going to hear about it. It's fine. Where the fans can reach out to us with their feedback on our list and just how to contact us directly.
All right, yeah. If you want to find us, talk to us, just stroll on down to FloridaFocusPodcast.com. You'll find all the outlets there and many ways to reach us and to hear us. We'd love to hear your list and let us know where we got it wrong.
Yes. Or, more importantly, we're not modest, how we got it right.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that,
too. If you want to pat us in the back, too, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you to everyone who listened. If you have any feedback for us, FloridaFocusPodcast.com. Also, a review on whatever service you're getting the podcast on would be helpful as well. Yep. We appreciate that. If it's 5-star, great. Tell us why. If it's not, tell us why there. We want to improve and make sure the show is the best for you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Any last thoughts before we sign off for the day, Chris?
No. This is fun time of the year.
All right. Bring it on. And this is Brandon saying, Go Noles.
Go Gators.